Tonight, grocers grilled over rising food costs as Canadians brace for bigger bills. Supermarket CEOs push back.
We're doing everything that we can.
And the new predictions providing a taste of what's to come.
Things will get interesting.
Reaction to Ottawa's roadmap to cap greenhouse gas emissions.
I'm prepared to fight this one out in court.
Also, a vigil for a Canadian couple killed in the Caribbean as new details emerge about their deaths. Plus, the calls for peace.
We all want security.
2 months into the Israel-Hamas war.
The only way is to acknowledge the rights of all.
And the most mispronounced words of the year.
I would say, sa?
From SZA to the Stone of Schoon. The tongue twisters topping the list.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. Two of Canada's biggest grocers defended their profits on Parliament Hill today and insisted they've been unfairly targeted for food inflation. The heads of Loblaws and Walmart argued that a yet-to-be-implemented grocery code of conduct to help consumers will end up hurting businesses and shoppers. And as Canadians start preparing their holiday menus, there are fresh warnings tonight. The new year could create a new financial pinch for families. Here's CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver.
The cost of products on shelves across Canada has been steadily rising, but two of the big grocers say they're not the problem, despite recording millions in profits.
I do understand that Canadians are feeling this pressure, and they look at these big numbers and they think to themselves, gosh, if that company would not make so much profit, our food prices would go down. But that's not the way that it would actually work.
The head of Loblaw and Walmart Canada were brought before a parliamentary committee today to outline their actions to help Canadians struggling with food inflation.
It seems that you're not doing everything you could to try and address this problem.
We're doing everything that we can do to run the tightest operation possible, so to be able to continue to offer the lowest prices in the market.
But right now, even those prices are substantially higher than they were a few years ago. And though food inflation is slowing, consumers will need bigger grocery budgets next year.
We are expecting to see lesser increases in categories like dairy products, but none are expected to decrease, unfortunately.
Canada's food price report estimates that the average family of four will pay over $16,000 for groceries in 2024, up $700. And food prices are expected to rise by another 2.5 to 4.5%.
It's a definite strain on your budget when you're retired and have a fixed income.
Once things go up, they don't seem to ever come down.
To bring prices down, Ottawa wants to regulate the grocer-supplier relationship through a grocery sector code of conduct. Right now, Loblaw and Walmart aren't ready to commit to that code, arguing it could reduce their bargaining power with manufacturers and drive prices up.
Right now, Walmart and Loblaws have too much power. A lot of companies don't have a shot at arguing and disputing any extra fees.
The code of conduct is voluntary, but today the federal agriculture minister said he wants to see all major grocers and supply chain partners adopt and adhere, Omar, to the code.
All right, Annie, thank you. Health Canada says the deadly salmonella outbreak linked to cantaloupe has now claimed 5 lives in 6 provinces. The number of cases has nearly doubled to 129 within a week. The majority of those infected are young children or seniors. Recalls on 2 brands of the fruit have been issued. No matter where you live in this country, chances are you know how long it can take to access medical care. A new report tonight shows it's the worst on the East Coast. People in Nova Scotia waited the longest. The time from getting a doctor's referral to getting treatment was 56 weeks, nearly double the national average. And Ontario reported the shortest wait at 21 weeks. Those findings coincide with Ottawa's new funding announcement of $3.5 million over 5 years for healthcare.
We're talking today to get really to the heart of the reason why we're seeing burnout and making sure that people are able to love their jobs.
The money is going to the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons to come up with a national plan to address the doctor shortage and retention. Ottawa unveiled its long-awaited emissions limit for the oil and gas sector today. The industry will be expected to cut greenhouse gas emissions by more than 1/3 by 2030. CTV's Kevin Gallagher reports.
Oil and gas extraction and production accounts for over a quarter of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions, more than any other sector.
Unlike almost every other sector of our economy, pollution from the oil and gas sector is still going up.
So the federal government plans to impose a cap-and-trade system on the industry, forcing the oil and gas sector to cut emissions between 35% and 38% below 2019 levels by 2030. If companies go over the cap, they can trade credits to pollute, buy offset credits from greener industries, or pay into a decarbonization fund, raising concerns from environmental groups that there are potential loopholes allowing excess pollution.
What we need to see is that they're forced to actually reduce their emissions from the sector itself, not purchase offsets from other sectors. We need to see oil and gas emissions come down.
The industry is investing in ways to trap emissions in the ground through carbon capture technology. Oil sands rich Alberta says it already has a plan to reduce the sector's emissions and wants Ottawa to butt out.
I'm prepared to fight this one out in court. I think that we are on the right side on this. They are on the wrong side, and they should withdraw the proposal.
In a statement, the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers says the federal government risks curtailing the energy Canadians rely on, along with jobs and government revenues the energy sector contributes. But Ottawa argues its cap-and-trade system will allow production to meet demand as emissions fall.
The best way for Alberta and other producing provinces in this country to maintain competitiveness in that market is to have the lowest carbon intensity barrels of oil and the lowest carbon intensity gas.
What the Liberals are doing today is really building a cap on jobs in this country.
The new framework isn't finalized yet, and the regulations won't come into effect until 2026. Environmental groups want them implemented sooner, so they'll be in place before the next federal election. Omar?
All right, Kevin Gallagher in Ottawa, where the federal government revealed foreign students applying to Canada will have to demonstrate they have doubled the funds currently required. Starting January 1st, prospective students will need to show at least $20,000 in their bank account to obtain a study permit, an increase from $10,000. The immigration minister also threatened to cap visas in provinces that don't help house students, or that he says should not be operating.
There are in provinces the diploma equivalent of puppy mills that are just churning out diplomas. And this is not a legitimate student experience.
Ottawa is also extending a waiver on the number of hours international students can work while class is in session. A 20-hour cap will now come into force April 30th. The mood is somber in Israel tonight at the start of Hanukkah, 2 months since the Israel-Hamas war. Israel says 1,200 people were killed on October 7th in the terror attack, and an estimated 138 hostages are still held captive by Hamas. While over the last 2 months, 17,000 people have died in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Inside Gaza, there is also a humanitarian disaster. Massive crowds gathered today outside a food distribution center. And in Tel Aviv, families of Israeli hostages gathered to light the first candle of Hanukkah and rallied for the release of loved ones. The start of Hanukkah in one of Canada's largest cities is different this year. Calgary's mayor was not there for the traditional lighting of the menorah at City Hall. CTV's Alberta Bureau Chief Bill Fortier on why she took that decision and the reaction to it.
As the menorah was lit at Calgary City Hall to mark the start of Hanukkah, for the first time in decades, the city's mayor was not there.
This is absolutely crushing.
Jyoti Gondek withdrew from the annual event after seeing these posters promoting the event as supporting Israel as war rages in Gaza.
I'm very worried that painting something as being political will create a divide that we don't want.
Disappointed with her decision.
The rabbi who helped plan the event insists nothing has changed from previous years.
This is not a demonstration for Israel and for the current war that is going on there. This is a Hanukkah celebration.
We liked her position on this. It was a very balanced position, and we understand the political pressures that Mayor Gondek goes through.
I disagree with the mayor. I think this is a very important event for the Jewish community, especially in light of the terrorist attack by Hamas.
Under the shadow of that attack and the ensuing conflict, menorahs were lit across the country tonight, including this event in Moncton, where the menorah was initially banned along with the nativity scene, but the decision was later reversed. Traditionally, Hanukkah is a celebration of the triumph of light over darkness. This year, the holiday comes at a dark time for many.
It's a message that we all need right now of the power of light to overcome darkness, of positivity to change the world.
And many of these Hanukkah events also include increased security. This holiday season comes during a concerning uptick in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents. Omar.
All right, Bill Ford, you're in Edmonton tonight. The new Assembly of First Nations National Chief is vowing to get to work immediately, especially when it comes to child welfare on the 600 First Nations communities she now represents. Here's CTV's Donna Sound.
A new leader takes the stage. Cindy Woodhouse, who had been the Manitoba Regional Chief for the Assembly of First Nations, now has the top job.
I solemnly promise and sincerely pledge to watch. We have a lot of work to do. Our people are waiting.
Getting here was difficult. No candidate could get the 60% required to win yesterday, as voting stretched late into the night. And it got heated at times as Woodhouse tried to convince opponent David Pratt to concede.
I'm still their first vice chief.
Yeah, we get
and I still work for them.
You said you would concede.
Yes, I know.
Finally today, during the 7th round of voting, Pratt did concede. The new national chief says her first priority is taking care of First Nations children.
Now the child welfare system that has been separating our kids for far too long, we need to push to bring our families home together again.
The Assembly of First Nations represents more than 600 First Nations in Canada. Many are struggling. This chief says his community is in a state of emergency and needs help.
I think we've had approximately 32 deaths in our families just in the past 2.5 years since I've been elected chief.
Those deaths due mainly to suicides, but the opioid crisis is taking a terrible toll as well. Many chiefs say there is a need for unity despite a hard-fought campaign.
We leave here united. We leave here behind our national chief.
Cindy Woodhouse says she's looking forward to working with all the political parties and is asking for the support of all Canadians. Omar?
All right, Donna, thank you. Coming up, an emotional tribute to a Canadian couple killed in the Caribbean.
They reached into all of our hearts and souls.
The memorial for 2 Montrealers as murder charges are laid in their deaths. Plus, disturbing new details about the gunman behind a deadly shooting at the University of Nevada. Police have identified the gunman who killed 3 staff members and critically wounded a 4th at a Las Vegas university. A chilling new video of a takedown was released today. The 67-year-old Anthony Polito reportedly applied to be a professor at the University of Nevada, but didn't get the job. Yesterday, he roamed the school's halls, opening fire until he was killed in a shootout with police. There is word tonight that Hunter Biden has been indicted on 9 tax charges in California as a special counsel investigation into the business dealings of U.S. President Joe Biden's son intensifies. The new charges are in addition to federal firearms charges in Delaware, alleging Hunter Biden broke laws against drug users having guns in 2018. An emotional sunset ceremony was held on the small Caribbean island of Dominica today to honor Quebec entrepreneur Daniel Langlois and his wife Dominique Marchand. Authorities have charged 2 people for their murders, including their neighbor, an American businessman. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin reports.
At sunset in Dominica, mourners paddled out, placing their kayaks in the missing man formation. ceremony filled with local traditions was designed to honor Quebecers Daniel Langlois and Dominique Marchand.
They reached into all of our hearts and souls, and were just genuinely good people.
The bodies of the renowned entrepreneur and his wife were found Sunday in a torched car. They had allegedly been shot. Local media reported yesterday on the court appearance of two men. Robert Snyder and American chocolatier Jonathan Lair were charged with murder and taken to state prison. Lair owns a chocolate and coffee plantation next to Colibri Ridge.
Dominica was a shock from the start.
That's the off-the-grid, eco-friendly resort Langlois and his wife opened up on the island. Court documents show Lair and Langlois were neighbors, but had been embroiled in a legal battle over a road. A judge had ordered Lair not to block access after he dug a trench and placed boulders to cut off passage.
Monsieur Daniel Langlois.
Langlois was a visionary, a pioneer of 3D animation who founded a company called Softimage. It produced special effects for Jurassic Park and a series of Hollywood blockbusters and video games, and later merged with Microsoft. Langlois and Marchand were also philanthropists and environmentalists. In 2017, they established a fund to help the island recover from the devastation in the wake of Hurricane Maria.
I'd lost my house and I'd lost everything. And Daniel reached out and called me and told me that he wanted to start Resilient Dominica. And it just empowered me to help the community. So
one of their proudest accomplishments was the rebuilding of a school by the pier. And now many on this small island grieve as they contemplate just how to carry on Langlois and Marchand's legacy. Some protesters did go to court yesterday to demand justice for the couple, but mourners said tonight they wanted to set aside their anger to honor this exceptional couple. Omar.
All right, Genevieve, thank you. A deadly explosion triggered a state of emergency earlier today in Seychelles off the coast of East Africa. The moment of a massive blast at an explosive depot was caught on camera, destroying homes and buildings. Hundreds have been hurt, mostly with minor injuries. The archipelago was also hit with deadly flooding overnight that killed at least 3 people. Still ahead, a few tongue twisters. The most mangled and mispronounced words of the year. Who knew there was a list of the most mispronounced words? Well, there is, and 2023 was no exception. Here's CTV's Joy Malvin on the words that have all been giving us some trouble.
Nobody gets me you. And it seems no one can get this American superstar's name right either.
Singer.
Caesar.
I would say Sa.
You know.
SZA.
Topping the list of mangled names is SZA. Even this Irish actor in the Hollywood hit has stumped a few.
Remember this day.
Cillian Murphy?
Apparently it's Killian.
Killian, oh.
Taylor Swift and her football beau are headline news, but the Kansas City Chiefs players' own family
I got tired of correcting people.
can't even agree on how to say their name.
Should we go by Kels or Kelsey? Do whatever you want. I did.
Babble experts.
For language experts who compile the list of mispronunciations,
Is it Daniel Glisson?
our diverse world presents some tongue twisters.
Because we have the internet, it's just so easy to share something that may not be even in your native language. Like you mentioned, Popocatépetl, which is the name of the volcano in Mexico.
Certainly, Hawaii's volcanic eruption had its moment.
Kalawa.
Yeah, Kilio. I guess I messed it up. I'm sorry.
The last debate she made.
Politicians even made the cut. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy caused problems for more than a few.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Confident about that?
Yes.
And though Canadian names aren't on the list, we asked some Americans. How would you pronounce that?
Ottawa.
Ottawa?
Ottawa.
One of the crowning surprises this year, that sacred slab of sandstone used in King Charles's coronation.
I was like, oh, it's scone. The stone of Scone, yeah.
A standout in a year of garbled names. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
Pretty tricky. Been caught on a few of those myself. After the break, a shared message against hate, turning grief for lost loved ones into calls for peace. We leave you tonight with a plea for peace from two men, one Palestinian, the other Israeli, both offering hope in the face of immeasurable loss. Here's CTV's Heather Butts.
The conflict zone may be half a world away, but Dr. Izzeldin Abulesh is living it every day.
The whole of my life is suffering as I described it. It's a war. And I expect the wars.
Raised in the Jabalia refugee camp, he became the first Palestinian doctor to get a staff position at an Israeli hospital where he promoted equality. None of his efforts, though, have spared him from tragedy. In 2009, he lost 3 daughters and a niece when an Israeli strike hit his Gaza home. More than 20 members of his extended family have been killed in this current conflict. Still, he tries to live without hate.
I am not broken or defeated or afflicted with a destructive disease called hatred. I am stronger, more determined. I kept moving forward.
The Nobel Peace Prize nominee has long advocated against revenge, calling on the international community to do more.
We need to acknowledge the big elephant in the room and that the Palestinians' life matter as equal to the Israelis. No other way than acknowledging the rights of all, and this what leads to what we call it peace. Peace is a relationship.
A relationship so many are working towards.
People in the end are the same. We all want security, we all want well-being.
Yonatan Zaigin's mother, Vivian Silver, was a peace activist dedicated to bridging the divisions between Palestinians and Israelis. She was killed in the October 7th attack. At a time of grief, he is finding strength in sharing her message.
Division and anger only lead to more pain. We need to put an emphasis on our similarities and to put our energies into solving our conflicts instead of deepening them.
A son who has lost his mother, a father who has lost his daughters, united in grief and a call for change.
I hope that this catastrophe, her death and all of the others in Israel and in Gaza, will be a wake-up call for us in the Middle East and also worldwide.
As a doctor, Abulesh looks at treating the conflict the way he treats a patient.
So the first thing, to stop the bloodshed, to stabilize the patient, and then to deal with the root causes of the problem.
Their deepest hope, more people will share the message of humanity and equality on a road to peace. Heather Butts, CTV News, Toronto.
Such powerful messages of hope. That is a snapshot of this Thursday. Morella Fernandez will be here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching, and to those celebrating, happy Hanukkah. Good night.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.
This has made you a target.
5 crucial questions to expose the truth.
He made a mistake. That's stunning.
One team uncovers the stories that need to be told. Watch W5, Fridays at 10 on CTV.